Everybody, this is Kevin Opp with Encorus Group, and welcome back to an introduction to Adobe InDesign. In this second series, I'm going to walk you through how to do a typical project profile page. So, like I did in the first one, let's take a look at what this is going to look like when it's complete. So I'm going to go up here to so as you can see, it's very similar to the resume in terms of its structure. If we look at the grid that's underlying, turn this on. I just did that with Option and the semicolon. You can see it's a 5-column grid, just like the resume. So let's get started building this. And to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually jump back over to the resume, and I'm going to make my life simple by not having to rebuild everything. What we're going to do is actually, I'm going to go here to Pages, and we've got a second page created, at least a blank one from when we did that previous demo. So let's go back up here. Let me show you actually, as we get into this kind of a fun feature here, how to use the master pages. I'm going to copy the logo and this web address down here. I've got both of them selected. I'm going to go to Edit, Copy. I'm going to delete them. And up here in this upper right corner where it says A Parent, that is the master page for all of these pages that are down below. I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to actually go over here and turn on our guides, make sure that we're going to go to View, Show Guides. Okay, there we are. So I've got that logo and web address pasted in memory at the moment, so I'm going to go up here and go Edit. And I'm going to use this feature called Paste in Place. So what it's going to do is put it in the exact same spot from where I just copied it. Boom, there it is. So what happens now is that because this is on a master page, every time we create a new page, this logo and web address will show up in the same spot. So that's kind of cool. So let me show you, as long as we're on the master page, is kind of another fun feature here. I'm going to create a rule. A guide rule here, and you notice my cursor's up here in the margin up here. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag down a guideline, and I'm going to put it right there at the bottom of the score for the website. And now I'm going to scroll over to the other side of the page here, and I want to create another guideline by doing the same thing. I'm going to come over and drag that right there. Okay. What I want to do is I'm going to introduce a automatic page numbering, which is a great feature especially if you're doing a multi-page document and you don't want to have to go and number each page by hand. So the way this would work is I've got my guides. I know where I want to place this. I'm going to come up to the text tool. I'm going to click, and I'm going to you can see that again the blinking cursor means that we're using the text tool. I'm going to go up under Type. And then I'm going to go to Insert Special Character, and you see here symbol, markers. Markers what I want. I want current page number. And this A is just a placeholder. It just says that that's where the page numbers are going to show up. And as long as I'm here, I want to style this, right? Because we've got standards that we're trying to so this is all consistent. So we're going to come here, we're going to go back to Properties. Again, it's defaulted to Gotham, and we want Minion. So I'm going to just type in here Minion, and there's my choices. And I want to make this, let's take a look at what our choices are here. How about just so many choices? Let's just call it display, that's fine. And if you recall, our text size was 10 point from the resume, so that's fine. We don't have a second line, but again, I'm just going to leave it at 12 so everything's consistent. And This defaulted to -10. We don't need to worry about that because there's only one character. I'm going to just turn it back to 0. Now what I want to do is I want to make sure that this is in the right spot. So I'm going to come back up here to my selection tool, and I am clicking. I've clicked on it and I'm holding it. I'm dragging it into position right there. Okay. So now let's jump back to our pages, and let's just take a look here. I'm going to double click and look at there. So on the very first page, it's page 1. On page 2, it's page 2, and so forth. Every time I drag another page down, it's going to update the page. So let's go to View. Actually, I'm sorry. Let's go to Fit Page in Window, and there we go. So what I wanted to do here, so that's how you'd use the automatic page numbering. But what we're going to do is we're going to create that project page. So this is locked. This is locked. We don't have to worry about that. I'm going to delete this. I'm actually going to leave this and just move it down because you'll see why I do that. And I am going to let's jump back here. You'll see why. So there's some very similar. There's some graphic elements like the logo. Obviously, like I said, the logo's there. The web address, that rule is still there. In this headline, or this, the title of the project is actually the same size as the architect's name. So that's consistent. So it just makes sense to copy it and just and reuse that rather than have to reintroduce that again. All right. So what I want to do is we're going to bring this photo. Let's see what size this is. It's 4 columns wide, and it is properties 4.06 inches high. All right, so let's go back to we're going to create a photo box, graphic box that's 4 columns wide, and we said it's 4.06 inches in height. Let's just make sure that it's sitting right on that guide right there. Okay. So with this selected, we're going to go to File, Place, and we're going to go now to this project page. And I've got a couple of photos in here. I've got the alumni house here, and I'm going to hit Open, and I'm going to hit OK. And it came in, and I believe it's probably a little bit bigger than the frame, and it is. So I'd like to, it looks a little tight in regards to the cropping. I'd like to have a little bit more air around that sign and have this so the side of the house not so tight to the edge of the frame. So I'm going to click and hold and make this a little bit smaller. That. There. And then I'm just going to hit the left key on my my arrows here, and I'm just shifting it a little bit in the frame. So that looks pretty good. All right. So now I'm going to just move this type back up here. And now I want to introduce the project narrative down here. So I'm going to create a text box, and I'm going to make that 4 columns wide. Make sure that it's aligned there. And remember, it's a text box because you see the that blinking cursors in there. So we're going to go File, Place, and now we're going to go to the alumni text. And remember this dialog box. If I want to remove all the styles, I click here, but I want to keep that, preserve the style so I know what's bold, what's regular, what's italic, and such. I'm going to hit OK. This is telling me that there's missing fonts. I don't really care because I'm going to change them anyways. So here is a case where I'm going to show you another kind of fun trick. I want this text, Alumni House Condition Assessment, to be the same size and font as the Jane Smith. So I'm going to highlight this text. I'm going to come over here to the eyedrop tool, click here, and watch this. I'm going to click right on top of that text, and now that is exactly the same font height, everything. It basically just copied all of its characteristics into that text. And now I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it right on top of that one. So I just copy and paste. Now I want Fredonia, New York to be exactly the same as the senior architect, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to highlight that, click on this eyedropper tool, click on that small type, and then edit, copy, and then we're going to paste it right in there. Edit, paste, and there it is. Now we can get rid of this, and we can move all of this text up in the frame, like that. Okay, so now we've got all this text that needs to be formatted, and it looks like there's more of it down here. So let's just open this up for a second. We know that we want this text to be minion. Hide all of this, and like we did before, I'm going to just type in minion, look for all the options, and there they are. I'm going to hit enter. And what it's done right now is it made everything minion black, but I don't want that. I want it to be regular. And because I've changed it here, I've lost some of that formatting, but this is a very small paragraph, so we can very easily go in and highlight those sections, make that bold, and make that bold. Okay. Notice all this text is also 12 point on 14. I don't want that, so I'm going to highlight all of it, and I want this to be 10. And I click, and I want the text or the lettering to be 12, which it's set to. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Let's move this up in the format there a little bit. Make sure it's aligned with the alumni house. That looks pretty good. Now, what happened? This bulleted list actually came in. This is done in Word, but I would prefer to use the bulleted list or the bullets from Indesign. So I'm going to highlight this copy here. I'm going to click right down here, and now I have bullets that are generated in Indesign. And here's some interesting options. You can click if you wanted to change the bullet, the type of bullet. You have lots of options you can add by clicking here, and you could have arrows or whatever you would prefer. Down here, this indent information, this what it refers to is the distance between the bullet and the text, and then the bullet and the frame it's sitting within. So if I wanted to close that gap up, right now it's set at -1/4. I want to move that over by putting in like 1/8. So I'm going to put in a 1 there, and I'm going to tab it, and I want to move the text over a little bit. So watch what happens when I do this. Okay, so there, it closed up that gap, which is allows you again, to get more words per line if that's your goal. But it's a cleaner looking gap right there. All right, so we've got the photo placed, we've got our headline, we've got our project information. I'm going to close this up a little bit. Maybe that gap right there is just a little too close, so let's give it a little bit more air. All right, that's good. Now we want to put in some supporting information over here in this column. So I'm going to take and I'm going to actually highlight this photo, and we're going to go to File, Place, and I've got a detail here of the interior of that space. So I'm going to hit Open, and I'm going to place that. As you can see, it doesn't fit the frame, so we do the same thing again. I'm going to click and hold that corner. I'm going to click and hold that corner. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so this is easier to see. And there's a lot more photo here that I think I want to show. So I'm going to take and move this down, and I'm going to open up this window. And to do that, I'm just clicking on that bottom little square, and I'm pulling it down so I can see the bottom of that chair right there. So that works pretty good. And I'm going to move this back up. And let's go to View, Fit Page and Window. And before I change this, let's just take a look and see how this is looking. Screen Mode Preview. Not so bad. Alright, let's turn the grid back on. So we're going to change this information now here. So I'm going to highlight all of this. I'm going to go File, Place, and here's Project Sidebar. And I get the same information here. And again, it maybe came in Times Roman and it's bold and it's so it has to be formatted. So I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to come over here, change it to Minion. We don't want black. We want regular. We want. Remember, this is a little bit smaller too because it sits in that sidebar. There's not a lot of space. I'm going to make this 9, and I'm going to make the leading 11, and hit Enter. And let's zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're doing. So I like these titles. These are going to be bold. Project owner is bold. Point of contact is bold. We're going to take Marcus's email address, which has that hyphen, and I'm going to hit a return so it's cleaner. And here's a case where if you wanted to make a hyperlink, you would do the same thing. You would highlight this, go to Object, go to Type, Hyperlinks, and you could add the an email. Instead of being a URL, it would be an email, and it would be hyperlinked to Marcus's address at Fredonia. I'm going to cancel. I'm not going to do that for this one. Professional services, we're going to make that bold. Contract costs, that was a very small project, obviously. And disciplines involved, as you can see, there's text missing. And see that little arrow, that's an indication that there's stuff below the bottom here. So I'm going to open this up. And disciplines involved, I'm going to highlight that. Make it bold. And I don't like this hyphen, so again, I'm going to just make it 2 lines like this. So that looks pretty good. Let's go to View, Fit Page. It's looking pretty good. Let's take a look how it works without the guides. Okay, not bad. This is a one-page project profile, and I showed you how to add these page numbers, which you don't need in this particular case. So I'm going to show you kind of a little trick to get rid of them. You can either go back to the master file and turn them off, or if you wanted on this particular page to turn it off, I would hit the Option, the Shift, and highlight it. As you can see now, it's not locked anymore, and hit the Delete key, and it's gone. All right. So that's good. Let's go back to Pages. We don't have anything on page 2, so I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to come over here to that little hamburger menu and hit Delete Spread. And that's gone. Last but not least, we've been working with a file that is still named Jane One Pager. We don't want that, so I'm going to go File, Save As. We'll call this Fredonia Alumni House Profile, and we'll save it in this project page in that folder there. Okay, so again, you can do the same thing with this one. You can go make a PDF, a high-res PDF. You've already got the hyperlink because we did that earlier. You could do the packaging, which we talked about in the first video. You could package that if you were going to send it to someone. So that is how we do the one-page profile. All right, I hope this has been informative, and thanks for listening.